Hello and welcome to another episode of Geared Toward Gear. My name's Sean and I'm so glad you're here as always. Today we're talking about the steel wheel Cutjack. You may be asking yourself, Sean, these have been around for a while. Why are you just now getting around to reviewing the Cutjack? Well, I only had a YouTube channel for about 4 months, and so I was actually talking to someone about this recently. I may review things that are old, and that's simply because I didn't have a YouTube channel then, and I do now. So now's my opportunity, so I'm going to do it. Especially with models that I really like. In this case, we're talking about the steel wheel Cutjack series. There's two different sizes you can see here, the standard Cutjack and the Cutjack Mini. We'll talk about specs, we'll talk about materials and all that stuff. They come in a bunch of different colors, I think all of which I have, and so I'll show you a bunch of different models that you can kind of see the different colors and size comparisons. But I'll start by saying this, here's your 20-second review. 39 bucks, 43 bucks. Good materials, good action, super ergonomic, very durable, and just a great EDC knife in my opinion. So if you don't own a Cutjack, I think you should. My personal preference is the Mini, and this one in black is the one I carry by far the most often. I'll occasionally carry the large one and occasionally carry some different colors, but 99% of the time it's this standard small black variety. So they are identical in every way other than dimension between the standard Cutjack and the Cutjack Mini. So let's talk about just kind of the basic materials, construction, and things like that. Then we'll get into the individual specs between the large, or standard I should say, and the Mini. So let's start with the blade. The blade is a drop point shape. It's a flat grind, at least until you get to the flats here. And then it's got a tapered swedge at the top, which is really nice. So it tapers kind of from the tang down towards the tip there. It's got a bit of a tip. I mean, it definitely can pierce, but definitely more belly. It's a good slicer, being a flat grind. And the blade steel on that is going to be D2. And this is the model C22. The miniature version is going to be the model C22M. So I like the blade shape, D2 steel. Again, on a lot of these kind of high value, I'll call them Chinese knives, D2 seems to be kind of the go-to steel, and I'm totally fine with that. So I don't have an issue with the steel. It's about 0.12 inches thick, so not a super thick blade stock, but in my experience, these things are freaking tanks, and they'll take quite a bit of abuse. So I do like that. So good blade shape for me anyway. Good blade finish, that satin finish, and the steel, no issues with D2, as I've mentioned many times in the past. My only complaint with the blade is that I think they did a little bit too much billboarding here. I wish the steel wheel logo was a little smaller and maybe moved up into this area, maybe like just the logo and not the actual lettering. And then on this side, you've got the model name pretty large there. So it's, personal preference, whatever. I can certainly get past it, but I generally like a little more clean look on the blade itself. So again, personal preference on that. Let's move to the handle. So the handle is a fiberglass reinforced nylon, or FRN. It's got this kind of bidirectional texturing. Certainly effective, definitely adds grip, looks just fine, and it works. No problems with FRN, especially again at this price point. So the thickness on your handle is going to be about, and it's going to be the same on both actually, on both the Mini and the full size. The thickness is identical, and it's 0.44 inches in thickness, and it does have a finger choil in the handle itself, plus a forward finger choil in the blade, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But the handle overall, I like. The shape is super ergonomic, and we will touch on ergonomics a little later on, but a simple FRN handle with some texturing, so that's what you're looking at there. As far as the action, it's a flipper, as you can see, so no thumb studs, and the action's good. It doesn't come out crazy fast, especially on the larger one, but definitely fast enough, and it's smooth. So no problems with the action. It's running on washers, and from what I can tell, I couldn't find it in the literature, and you may not be able to see it, but from what I can tell, they're definitely bronze washers. You won't be able to see the bronze, I'm guessing, but take my word for it, there are bronze washers in there. So that's what your action is running on. It is ambidextrous, which is nice, being a flipper, so you can flip with right or left hand, obviously. And the detent is good. It's strong enough, not too strong. It's kind of medium, I guess. I could go for a little stronger detent for my taste to get a little more authority in the flipping action, but it's plenty strong of a detent to, you know, not want to come out on you. So no problems with the action. The lock is going to be a liner lock here, and the lockup's good. It's probably 40% of the way over. Super strong. There's no blade play up and down whatsoever. On this larger model, if I try hard enough, I can get some side-to-side play, just because it's kind of the whole thing's flexing. But generally speaking, the lockup is quite strong, so no issues there. The liners are nested stainless steel liners, and if I can get the light just right, you can see some of those large milling holes there. So they have reduced the weight substantially by doing that weight reduction on the liners. So good lockup, good detent, no real issues there. Let's talk about the clip. This is one of my, I guess, complaints. I don't love the pocket clip. It's a little phallic in its shape, which I don't love. I don't mind that it's not deep carry. I don't need deep carry on every knife that I own, but I do wish this carried a little deeper, so not my favorite pocket clip, but it does go in and out of the pocket just fine, and it carries just fine. So if you can get past the shape and the fact that it's not deep carry, it'll work just fine for you. So not a huge issue, just, you know, it's definitely not my preference, and I'm sure you could find another, you know, clip that uses the same pattern, or find an aftermarket clip if you really wanted to, but I haven't found it to be worth it to do that personally. So don't love the clip, but it is what it is. It's designed for tip-up carry, as you can see, and it is swappable right or left side. So this is a good ambidextrous knife. So if you're lefty, the Cutjacks will definitely work well for you. I already mentioned the liners are skeletonized, so that's good. It does have some jimping, so let's go over to the big guy here. So you got some jimping on the spine of the blade there, and it's actually really well done. I'm kind of, I don't want to say a jimping snob, but sometimes I think it's really overdone, or just done poorly where it's not functional or not needed. I think on this knife, especially on the large one, just where your thumb naturally lands, it's in a good spot. It's cut in there well. It's, when you hit it with your thumb, you're going to feel it. It's going to want to stop, but it's just not, it's not sharp whatsoever, but very, very functional. So I do like that. There's also some texturing or jimping on the liner itself, which makes it easy to get in there and disengage. And then on the flipper tab, of course, you've got just a couple little run of jimping there, which kind of makes your finger want to stick to it a little bit to go ahead and flip it. So a little bit of jimping here and there, and I'm cool with that. There's also some texturing on the back spacer itself. As you can see, it's kind of a partial flow-through design with kind of a half back spacer, which also doubles as your lanyard hole. So that's that. So yeah, I think we've covered for the most part all of the kind of basic features. Now let's talk about the differences in size. And you know, before that, let's make it interesting and bring in some different colors. And if I'm not mistaken, the colors I'm going to show you are all of the colors you can get this in. So in the Cutjack, the C22, you can get this in 3 colors in D2 steel. Okay, so in D2 you can get it in black, you can get it in green, and you can get it in blue. And all the colors are done well. They all look nice. Black, green, and blue are your options in D2 steel for the full-size Cutjack. And in the Cutjack Mini, you actually have 4 options, and those are black, green, blue, just like before, and then your 4th option is a brown or tan color. It's kind of a tannish brown, I guess you'd call that. Yeah, so those are your options. You've got several colors to choose from to fit your preference, depending on which size you want. They do make these, I will say, in M390 steel as well, with G10 handle options, and those go for 130, 150, maybe somewhere in there. So if you do want an upgraded version of this with M390 steel and G10, they do offer those. But in my opinion, the budget line, kind of the standard Cutjack for me is where it's at. And you know, Steel Will, I think, does a lot of really good designs. Some that come to mind, just that I can remember off the top of my head, would be like the Modus, the Intrigue, what else? The Lanner, the Piercer. So they do a lot of really good designs, kind of in this same FRN D2 kind of budget-friendly range. So Steel Will, I think, is doing some good stuff over there. They've also got some great fixed blades, so I'm definitely digging what they're doing as a company in general. So let's talk specs briefly on the two different sizes, and then we can call it a day. So on the miniature, the C22M, which is my preference, and again, this is the one that I carry by far the most, you're looking at a blade length of 3 inches compared to 3.5 inches on the large, or the standard. Your handle length is going to be 4 inches on the mini and 4.5 inches on the large. Your overall length is going to be 7 inches on the mini and 8 inches on the large. So you're getting a 1/2 inch extra in blade as well as handle for a total of 1 inch extra overall length. And then the weight on the miniature is going to be 3 ounces, so pretty good weight there for me. And then on the large one, you're at 3.7 ounces. You know, so for a 3.5 inch blade, very much full size knife with my extra large hands, to come in at, you know, under 4 ounces at 3.7, I think is definitely good. So no complaints there. So that is the Steel Will Cutjack series. Again, this is the budget line, the high value that I really love. Again, you can upgrade and go M390 and G10 and spend $150, and that's totally cool. I've considered it myself a number of times, but for me, with this model, the budget version is where it's at. And I will say the ergonomics, if I didn't already mention it, are just phenomenal on this knife. Just the design, it just lends itself to being crazy ergonomic with the forward finger choil, which is actually usable even for me and my extra large hands. Even on the mini size, I can get my finger in that choil and not be afraid I'm going to cut myself, so I can choke up if I need to. And the handle shape, just, I don't know, it's a really well designed, from an ergonomic perspective, a really well designed handle and blade there. So just super comfortable in the hand. There's, as far as these budget knives go, or really anything I own, this is probably in the top 10 most ergonomic knives, in my opinion, that I currently own, of, you know, 150 or plus knives. So just super comfortable in the hand. I mean, even bearing down on it, there's really no hot spots to speak of. The pocket clip lands in such a way that it doesn't really bother me. It kind of just rests in the meat of my palm. So if you want a super ergonomic, it's a user. Like, these are total users, and they'll get the job done. The D2 comes pretty sharp out of the box. I do have some paper nearby, actually. Let me get a sheet of paper real quick, prove to you that these will cut paper, because that is the end-all, be-all. You know, that's how you know if it's a good knife, right? If it cuts paper. Not really. And I haven't used this one a little bit, so it should be close to factory. I think I may have stropped this like one time, so we'll see if it'll cut paper. And it slices quite nicely with that full flat grind. It just lends itself to slicing. So just, actually, this is a lot better of an edge than I thought it was. I may have stropped this one, but just a really nice edge on that D2. So anyway, that's a Steel Will Cutjack. You got some other colors. They're cheap, they're fun, they're durable, they're comfortable. Buy one for yourself and for your friends. And thanks so much for watching, as always, and I'll talk to you soon.